Hello, good people. We are back for our second episode of Pass the Mic with Pastor D. We are so excited, y'all. We had a lot of feedback from our first episode. We thank all of you for your comments or your suggestions in the chat groups. So today, we have my co-host with me today.
Hola, I am your co-host, Mika G. Thank you to all who have liked, shared, subscribed, followed all our pages, all our platforms. And so we're back for episode 2, and I guess you ready?
So we are cool. So look, y'all, today, based upon some of your comments or your suggestions, today's episode, y'all ready? Today's episode is going to be what's holding you back. There's several of us who have so many things in our life that is keeping us from being the greatest that God has called us to be. So today, I think we're going to jump into some of that stuff, Mika.
Yeah, we're going
to find out what's really holding you back. Absolutely. So now I want to pass the mic to
me. We're going to pass the mic back and forth. You know, y'all got to, if you haven't liked, shared, and subscribed, and you're there, make sure you do so. So anyway, we're going to jump on in. So I think it was our sister Erykah Badu that said, "Bag lady, you gonna hurt your back, dragging all them bags like that. Bag lady, you gonna miss your bus, you can't hurry up because you got too much stuff." So today we're tapping into what's holding you back. So let's get into what may be the root or the reason why someone has slow progression or just in a place where they're not fully completing their goals.
I think probably one of the major pieces for that, Shamika, is the fact that we hold ourselves back a lot. We hold ourselves back a lot, probably based on our past experiences, our hurts, our way we were raised, we were trained, and the reality is, if we got to get over ourselves first.
Absolutely. And a lot of that is, we were talking about one of the main things before you do anything else. It has to start with your mind. So stinking thinking, what is that?
Stinking thinking is just what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It's like it's a thought process that just stinks. That just nobody wants to be around. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to smell it because the reality is when we smell so bad, our nose turns, our face changes, and the reality is we want to get away from whatever it is that smells bad. So a lot of times, if people are leaving you or not want to spend time with you, not want to be around you, it could be because your thought process is stinking and people don't want to be around somebody who has all this negative thought processes and negative thinking. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that I heard something profound the other day. So, in anything that we do and we want to do it different, and we talk about the Bible verse in Jeremiah over the renewing of the mind. So you have to start going into things head first. You can't keep showing up into every situation thinking you're going to give birth to something and come and breach. Okay? So breach, clinically is backwards. I can't go into it, fully trying to do something different if I'm coming in the same way. So there's a power of a changed mind. Like how is my thinking? As you say, what is it coming from? What rooms am I exiting before I even enter?
That's major.
Yeah.
Yeah, we keep our own self out of spaces that God has set for us.
Yeah.
And, as you were talking about Jeremiah, I was thinking of scripture that says, "Such as a man thinketh,
so is he."
So is he. So now if I begin to constantly be thinking of stinking thinking or this negative thoughts, in the reality, that's who I'm going to really become.
Absolutely.
And once I become that person, I'm that person. And I have to do something different at that point. As my boo says, have to have a renewing of the mind.
Renewing of the mind, absolutely.
And that's where it starts. Not by changing everybody else. I have to start by changing the way I think.
Right, and that's how I learned that verse, because Michelle says that's her favorite verse. I knew it was in Jeremiah. But so I think what we're going to do today is some of the points that we're going to give you. We're in a society where everything people look at, they want to happen quick. They see you in one space and say, "Ooh, I want to be there," not knowing the trenches that you were in when it was just you, God, and the demon, and then you showing up now to this space and it's like, "Oh, I just want to get there." not knowing the work that has to be done. So what we're hoping at the end of the day, that you'll be able to take some of these things and start your beginning steps to the process of the best version that you want to be. So thinking first, it has to start in the mind. Secondly, is we're already tapping into is that self-awareness piece.
My biggest piece, my personal biggest change was when I did the self-reflection. It's easy to point at everybody else, say what they're doing, what they're not doing. And the reality is, I may have a valid right to respond in my thought process to somebody based upon what they did. But it's still up to me to make the right decision of how I'm going to respond or how I'm going to think.
Absolutely.
So it still goes back to, what am I going to do about what's holding me back?
Absolutely.
What am I going to do about it? So yeah.
All right, so let's get saucy now. So this is going to be the only cuss word that I'm going to say on the show. All right? And that cuss word is vulnerability. Oh, it's such a cuss word. So listen. So earlier this week, so I'm going to be transparent. Earlier this week, I was in this space. I said, I don't know what this is, but I don't like the way that it feels. What emotion is this? Like, I don't know what it is, right? So after talking with, some people that are assigned in my life, they were like, oh, that's just vulnerability. So what that is now you're having to put down something to allow someone or something into your space where you want to control your environment all the time to feel safe. And I don't want to feel that emotion today, or I'm not even going to do that today. So it's like a control thing too. I'm just going to be right here because, God, I don't want to exercise that muscle in the gym today. Yeah. But she let me know that this is something that you're going to have to do to be able to grow fully. If you're not allowing yourself again to feel some of these things, what rooms are you already exiting yourself from before you can enter? So you have to allow people, unfortunately, the opportunity to hurt you. It may happen. That may happen. But you also have to trust that God is going to handle that as well. Going back to our stewardship piece, just because one person does not steward the relationship well does not mean that every other relationship has to pay for what that person done to you. So that bag is a big bag to have to put down. So we talked about it already. So bro, let's get all the way into this and vulnerability. What's your thoughts?
So vulnerability is probably one of the hardest things for most people to do, because vulnerability opens you up to do what you just said. It opens you up to potentially be hurt. And nobody in their right mind wants to get hurt. So that's why I believe vulnerability is so hard, because it does open you up to somebody to take advantage of you, somebody to say something bad to you, and then being the man or woman of God that you are, there's certain things you cannot say.
You just got going on, eat it
the way you want to respond. You want to do that right, but you can't do the right. You got to do what's right. And you want to say something, but you can't say it because if you say that, then they're going to start judging you even more, and now you don't open yourself up. Then the way social media is, they don't catch you, they're going to post you, they're going to blast you, they're going to share it, and you're like, oh, Lord, I knew I shouldn't open myself up. But the reality is, like you said, you open yourself up to get hurt, but yet God helps heal that hurt anyway.
Absolutely.
And and there's lessons sometimes in the hurting. There's lessons in the hurting. As a child, my mom would tell us, hey, and probably some of you, your mom said, hey, don't touch that, it's hot. As hard-headed as I would touch it, find out it's hot, but there was a lesson in it. Yes, it hurt, but there was a lesson. Now, I need to listen to mama when she says something and not touch something that when she says is hot. So, but it was a lesson learned. For the better. So when we make ourselves vulnerable, we do open ourselves up to get hurt. But there's blessings in the hurting.
There's blessings in the hurting. I think too that, so with the vulnerability piece and then getting to the core of why you operate and truly wanting to heal, it stops you from putting makeup on messes.
So what you're saying is you cover up stuff
Yeah. Put a little bit.
that's still inside, and you never fix the real issue because you just mask the issue.
Right. We talked about this at the women's event, so then you get a friend, a little girlfriend, and she needs growth too. And then both of y'all put on the little outfits of pity and stuff, and y'all dress alike for River Spree and walk around with the outfits of pity on, the both of you.
Yeah.
You just putting the makeup on the mess. So to truly get to know you at your core, and sometimes it hurts, but it's exciting. You get to, if you want to truly be that best version of yourself.
Let me ask you something. So you said, as you made that statement, it sounded a little personal.
Yeah.
It sounded like you might have been talking about
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
How did you experience that moment, and what did you do to get through that?
I think what I was tired of, I couldn't keep allowing myself the transitions that I went through in life to change my position. So I'm tired of going into the rooms being robbed of being full version of myself because I'm carrying some stuff that I'm supposed to let been put off, because I hadn't done the work.
Yeah.
Because today I just put a little Band-Aid on it and I'm going to just keep on going about my way. Or I'm going to put a little lipstick on it and it's going to look good, but in the end, it doesn't end up feeling good. Like I was tired of that. Yep. And then here I am now, still young, but in my 40s. But, having been like midlife, you've done so much, and you want to really start showing up for yourself. You want to see who God really fully created you to be. In order for you to be full in that purpose, let me get down and do this work. So that was for me. Beginning steps, of course, though, was with my mind. Self-awareness and my mind. And don't think that I don't get up today and still don't have to do that work. It requires daily deposits. It is a maintenance thing that is something that you will always have to do. You have to always remain teachable so you're able to show up in these places being 100%. Yeah. So that's what I done.
And I think that's the thing that we're going to be able to share on this show, that the realness of who we are. Because people look at you, who you sing on praise and worship, you open up, you lead worship, and people are like, oh, she got it going on, she got it together. They look at me as being a preacher and like, oh man, he got it going on. I guarantee he don't have any problems, he don't have any issues. But the reality is, I put on a mask on Sunday sometime to get up here and preach the gospel because I have so much stuff inside of me, and some things I don't want to open up because, again, the vulnerability piece, I don't want to open it up because now I got 100 people, 200 people watching me, listening to me, and I'm afraid sometimes if I share just a little bit too much, then the judgment comes in.
Yeah.
Then they're going to be like, oh, if he's struggling with that, how can he teach me? How can he lead me if he's struggling with those issues? So even me, I put on some masks sometime, or I don't put on makeup.
Oh, okay.
I ain't put on no makeup.
No lip gloss.
No lip gloss, no lipstick. But I put on a mask sometimes because I don't want everybody to see the real me sometimes. Yeah. But then sometimes you heard me on a Sunday morning, I'll just rip the mask right off in the midst of preaching and show you who I am.
Yeah.
Because some people need to see the real you.
Yeah, I think the people need to know this. I think the people need to be able to have principles that they take home. Don't necessarily get me on a high when you're in the pulpit and tell me things that I can get from the gospel song on 100.9, but give me something that I can take home and use in my marriage. Give me something that I can take home and use with my sister circle, those type of deals. Because life gets tough. And people are looking for the realness, that she didn't just wake up and, she's got it all together. But anyway, so since we're going there, and we have gotten a lot of suggestions on this topic. So the next topic or the next point, in what's holding you back, people wanted to discuss a little bit on church hurt.
Whew. Yeah.
So under this umbrella could be a lot of things. My first thought was it could be, in church where you were overlooked for a lot of things, maybe a lot of traditional ways where you had done something that was outside of the will and you were maybe sat down. There could be so many different things, but under that umbrella, ultimately, what I tried to go to is what is the source of that? The source of that, again, would be trust and vulnerability, that you don't group everyone, just account on the one situation that you had with Pastor Jeffrey syllabus metaphor or something, you know. Y'all thought I was going to say some last name. But just to not categorize every one person from your one experience. So what can you say to that?
So the church hurt piece, I guess, man, and I don't want to say this to offend anybody, but it is what it is. I kind of put a lot of that on pastors. Pastors have breeded a relationship between pastor and church that made the church depend on the pastor for so much stuff. Right. And when the pastor does something wrong, or church folks do stuff wrong, now the first thing we do is says, I'm not going back to church, I'm not doing anything with church. I made myself vulnerable to the church, and now the church has hurt me. And the reality is, Shamika, if they had came in from the beginning and had a relationship with God, with Christ first, right, it doesn't matter what the church did because they're people. Right. And then I'm not going to be so bad and hurt on church because I know Christ. So as I started preaching, Bishop taught us, as our ministers, we was talking about when we became a preacher, Bishop taught us that as a pastor, you have to be to the place that you understand that you're a shepherd and that sheep bite. Shoot. So if I'm a shepherd and I realize in advance that sheep bite, I can't be mad at the sheep for biting. So if I go to a church and I build a relationship with Christ, instead of building a relationship with the church folks or the pastor, then if they do something to me, it won't affect me so much because, man, I ain't got a relationship with you anyway.
Absolutely.
Like, I appreciate you, but it really ain't about you. I'm coming to church not for you, not for the preacher. I'm coming to church because I want to come and worship God and spend time with him. And sometimes we have put so much faith in people and so much faith in the pastor or the preacher that now that church hurt becomes real. And yeah, it's part of the preacher's fault and part of the individual's fault for not building a relationship with God. And because even no matter what, if I make myself vulnerable, I'm gonna be hurt anywhere, right? I'll get hurt if I go to McDonald's and they don't treat me right. I'm gonna be mad. Like, you messed my order up. And essentially you hurt me. But the problem I have, here's the problem I have with folks. They put so much emphasis on church hurt, and they use that as an excuse not to come to church.
Yeah.
McDonald's mess your order up 5 times.
But you still gonna get that Big Mac, okay?
Huh?
Still gonna get that Big Mac.
The doctor's office. You go to the doctor's office, they tell you to be there at 2 o'clock. They don't see you till 3 o'clock. You ain't so mad at them that you ain't going back to them.
Yeah. So I would say this, because while we're talking about it, because I think that I was there one time before, but I didn't necessarily know who I was mad at. I was just in the general like, I ain't feeling this no more. Like, I ain't feeling the way this is rolling, this faith piece, and this is what's happening in this environment. So I took a break off. I took a 2-3 year break and just watched Joel on for 20 minutes on Sunday. And I guess I was trying to figure it out. But then at the end of the day, it goes back to I had to realize it wasn't the Lord that did those feelings. I had those feelings again against people. Those people. And you have to realize that we all are imperfect. So you're going to encounter a sheep, okay, per se, that may be biting. But that's part of it. Ultimately, you got to get your relationship right with Christ. Now, granted, is there some serious trauma that people have really experienced where you really need to do counseling and therapy behind? Absolutely. But I'm hoping that from today, if there are things that are from you, that self-evaluation piece where you're just toting stuff from your 8-9 years old or what have you. Somebody set you down and chose sister such and such to sing the solo and not you, and now you won't sing Nowhere You Go and all that kind of craziness, then that's a bag you need to really unpack. Yeah.
And now I want to help that person that does feel some church hurt, because I said pastors and church folks, but the people in the church who so-called Christians, when a new person comes to church,
come on now,
they don't need you to be judging them because they don't have on church clothes. They don't need you judging them because they may smell like weed when they walk through the door. They don't need you to judge them because they got alcohol on their breath. It just so happened that you knew you were coming to church and you didn't smoke before you came to church because you didn't want the people to know that.
Right.
You didn't drink that day before you came to church because you didn't want people to smell you drinking.
Right.
But Tuesday, you smoked just as much as that person who came into church smoked.
Right.
But yet you're ready to condemn that person. I'm not condoning smoking or drinking. What I am saying is, don't be so judgmental on the person who comes to church and treat them in a way that you do push them away from church.
Right.
Because at this point, when they're coming new, they don't have the relationship yet with God.
Right.
That's why they're coming into the house.
You're supposed to be the example. And then go into that, not condoning it, but, you know, bro, like we all are progressing. None of us are perfect. So just because you might smell the Heineken that she drank last night at the hut, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You would had a point in your life when you were the same way. So my idea too, and I'll touch on this because that could be a whole nother subject. You know, when people come to me who I know who are assigned and genuinely want to know, like, what is it that you have going on? And then I have the opportunity to introduce them to my relationship with God. I don't come in as a gung-ho, like, as I'll take the whole title as Christianity. Why? Because I think we got such a bad rap. I think that so many people put such a bad label on that, and it also keeps us in a box. I think of myself as a believer. You know, to me, like, that's just like unlimited.
Yeah.
You know, there are different things from other religions that I like to inquire in mind. Let's say, like, for peace, you might just get with your prayer and meditation. You know, I'm just not gung-ho, like, oh, I can't talk to you because you're Jehovah's Witness or whatever. That is the love of Christ. That no matter what your belief is, that I can still love you when you come in the door. And you're still my brother, sister, despite what your beliefs are. That's the connection and the example that I think that we need to set better as a body.
I was talking the other day, Shamika, you know, we plan on doing the cookout. And I was talking to one of the college students, and he was on campus, and he had some friends on campus who are Muslims. And he was trying to tell them, hey, come by the cookout, hang out with us after church. And the guy told him, nah, I can't come by there because it's a church event. And I'm like, man, are you that afraid of who you are that you can't come and just fellowship with friends that you have? So I'm like, nah, look, tell him come. Just
Come
tell him
anyway.
come hang out with
Come
us.
anyway.
And if you want to tell me, I'll call him.
Yeah.
Let him come out. We ain't gonna preach nothing to him. We ain't gonna hit him with the Bible. We just want to hang out.
Yeah, we're not going to give you any pamphlets,
Right.
any of that.
What I'm hoping is that a little bit of the Christ that's in us
Right, or roll off on you.
will roll out. He'll see that we're not who you think, as you said, a Christian should be.
Absolutely.
And we're not judgmental. We ain't gonna condemn you. We ain't gonna throw the Bible at you. We ain't gonna try to get you saved out there. We just want to give you a hot dog and hamburger.
Right, right,
We can just hang out.
right.
And just hopefully something we do say might cause you to inquire, man, this Jesus dude that y'all hanging out
Yeah,
with,
right.
he might be cool. But it's not going to happen if we just bash people or condemn people for who
Right.
they are. Nah, you're a Muslim. Okay, cool, bro. I ain't got no problem with you.
Right. Or turn yourself into a gang, you know.
Yeah.
We're gonna be this gang over here on this block, the Victory Gang of BC.
so-
You know, you're always welcome here. By the way, this is an extension to any visitors that would like to join. We have worship service every Sunday at 10 a.m. Bible study Wednesdays at 7.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah, that whole piece
Yeah.
of church hurt is it's real. It's real.
Yeah.
But again, I believe the bottom line of church hurt is because you put too much trust in people and you hold it against people, like you said earlier, because pastor such and such did this to you, or choir director such and such did this to you, or Deacon Joe or Evangelist Susie did this to you, and now you're going to hold that against you're going to hold it, not just church, but now you're gonna
Everybody
hold
that goes to
against God.
church, yeah, everybody. I ain't going with those church people, like that whole nine. That again goes back to the stewardship piece. Just because they weren't responsible and accountable as they should have been and didn't steward the relationship well with you, that now is cutting you off from other people.
Yeah.
You know,
And you're missing some blessings.
and you're missing some blessings. Yep, you're keeping
You
yourself
are
out of the
missing
room.
some blessings because there are some people that God has planted treasures, gifts, and treasures inside of that's assigned to collide with you if you just meet at the right place at the right time that God has
Absolutely.
ordained for us.
Absolutely.
And because of your baggage, you missing all that.
Right.
And you never receive what's next for you. Remember we said last week, like, my thing is I just want to see us win. You never receive your winning next if you have all this church hurt holding you back. It's just sometimes you just got to release that stuff and just move forward. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Absolutely. And it's going to take work, but
Yep.
you can. So let's get into this. This is our last, I guess our last point on what may be holding you back. And the design of this is to whatever it is that you are contemplating doing, that this is your sign, that some of these seeds that we're planting, you can start operating and moving forward, even if it's baby steps. We didn't just jump out and, what we're talking about is from experience and things that we're still doing with taking
Still get
steps
held back
on.
some stuff.
Yeah, still getting held back on some stuff. And we're here, studying. He's the pastor,
Well, don't call me out, Shamika.
Okay, well,
Call me out what I'm not doing.
this is Pastor Mike with Pastor D,
Don't call
another
me
plug. But so just our last thing, because ultimately I just kept being pointed back to the trust piece. So this is the beginning thing, because you have to trust yourself. So I'm going to have this, and we'll see what the people can take. So trust, I looked up the definition for trust. So trust is a firm belief in the reliability, the truth, the ability or strength of someone or something. So to the person that is deciding on whether to trust because of the lack thereof, trauma they may have endured, or just plain old don't want to start the process of taking walls down to build a gate. Can you speak to those beginner steps?
So I think you said it even in the definition. Before you can even trust anybody or anything, you have to first trust you. And part of the definition said a belief in something or somebody. If I don't believe in who I am, I'll never believe anybody else.
Absolutely.
So my challenge, before I even came into preaching, I struggled with believing who I was. So I had a challenge with believing some preachers, because I'm like, man, I know what I do, I know who I am, and I don't want to be the preacher yet because I got my stuff I got to work on. So I didn't trust other preachers, some of them. You know what I mean? So when you talk about going away from the church, that was why some of my trust didn't happen. But then I had to realize and start believing in who I was. And once I can trust who I was, then I can say, oh, there's other people that I really can trust in.
Yeah.
Because now I believe in who I am, so I can believe in who they are. But if I don't even trust myself, ain't no way I can trust nobody else.
Yeah.
So the first step I would always be is, let's first sit down. Again, I always go back to this. I don't know, if I talk to people all the time, I always go back to self-evaluation. And because it always starts with me. It always starts with me. So the trust piece, I have to start with me. So if somebody's struggling with the trust issue, figure out where that trust issue is coming from. Is it some baggage that you had, that somebody's done something to you, or they lied up to you about who you were, and now you begin to believe what they said about you? Or is it something that you put on yourself? Fix you, work on you, and then move toward to the trust piece. And I think that's the first step, and then you can move from there. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think that was good. I think that's probably a good stopping point
Yeah,
there.
but I gotta trust me first.
Yeah.
I gotta trust and believe in who I am, and then the rest of it, we'll build on it. And then I don't trust everybody. Even to this day, I don't trust everybody.
It's work.
I don't trust everybody. And it's important for everybody. We talk about trust, but it's important for you. You can't share everything with everybody.
And see, we can go past the time if we get to talking about this. If we can go past the time if we get to talking about this. So
can't share
you
everything
absolutely,
with
and you cannot share. Some things are meant for you.
Yeah.
And then we live in a town where they say these people are everywhere. It's people in this town they call they.
Yeah.
You know they,
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
you?
they, yeah.
they said,
Yeah, yeah.
they did, they think,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
people, you got to be delivered from all them. You can't be sharing everything.
Yeah.
And that's okay, especially in your beginning steps. I think that you should be selfish with the steps. The tools that you grasp in the beginning when you're geared to make these moves, after you watch the show today and you decide you want to apply some of these principles, you don't have to announce it to everybody. Let that be something that's personal between you and God. You do the work.
Yeah.
And let him do the rest. Let him do the construction. Don't look for anybody's input. Well, unless they're assigned to you.
Mm-hmm.
But when the journey truly gets to be about you and developing, you got to be selfish with that and just hold it, make it golden.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess the bottom line of today really is talking about what's holding you back. And it sounds like some of the things that's really going to hold us back is going to be the fact of, one, the way we think.
Right. Stinking thinking.
The way we think. The second thing is
Self-awareness.
self-awareness. What
With
self-awareness again?
Recap self-awareness. You're going to have that vulnerable piece in that self-awareness, self-evaluation, self-awareness. Again, with the church hurt, releasing that. That's, again, the self-awareness. And then lastly,
That's the
trust.
piece. That church hurt piece, I think, is probably one of the biggest because
We probably had to do a whole pod on that.
the church hurt, we're missing so many of God's blessings because we've tied the church hurt to God. And God didn't do it to you.
Right, right.
And we're missing out on what God has for us because we're tying the church people to God. And some of those folks don't even know God.
Right. Never got to know him.
They don't even represent God.
Right.
And you're now using that and you're holding
It was a
that
bad
against
example.
God.
Bad example.
Yeah, and then the last one you said is
And the last one, of course, is trust. So, I think that's good today for takeaways. We hope y'all enjoyed the show. Make sure that you go to YouTube. Watch us on our what we're dropping.
so we're going to be streaming. Where we're going to post up to our Facebook, Pastor Mike. We're going to post up to Facebook, Pastor Mike. We're going to go to YouTube, same hashtag, Pastor Mike. Hey, look, y'all. Also, so this is video, but we're also going to be going up on all the podcast sites.
Yeah. So right now we're on Spotify.
I don't even know the names of all of them, but Spotify.
So we're on Spotify. Right now we're on Spotify. We're on Instagram at Pastor Mike _D23. And we're, of course, our YouTube channel is Pastor Mike _D23. And we're on Facebook at Pass the Mike with Pastor D.
And Instagram, Twitter.
All
So
those.
future, we're going to be starting posting some things. I'll post some clips, some small little nuggets we'll drop from the mic. And on different episodes, I might pass the mic to somebody else and drop something on our pages. So you'll catch something. Again, our whole goal is to really just drop a few nuggets that would help us all.
Be better.
Not just me, not just Mika,
Help
but
us out.
all of us grow. And as we said in our first episode, we want everybody to win.
Yeah.
And that's what Pastor Mike with Pastor D is about. So again, as Shamika said,
Yeah.
like, share,
Like, share, click, subscribe.
subscribe to all of our social media sites.
Yeah.
So good hanging out with y'all. Stay tuned. We have more to come.
Yep. Thanks for hanging out. Peace.